بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamualaikum students, I hope you all are fine. So here I am going to explain new topic. In last class we have discussed some of the topics. So further we will discuss these type of topics in the chapter reproduction in plants. Okay. So last topic what we have discussed like introduction, reproduction in plants and asexual reproduction, types of reproduction we discussed, and vegetative reproduction, artificial methods of vegetative reproduction we have discussed. So now today I am going to discuss what is budding. Okay, budding, it is another type of asexual reproduction. Budding basically it is a prominent spore like projection and it is considered as a round prominent projection. It is known as budding. So it is considered as asexual reproduction commonly observed in yeast. Yeast cell, it is considered as a bud. Bud basically different from the flower bud. It is not considered as a flower bud. It is different. It is considering a round prominent projection that is developed side of the body. Okay, and it is start enlarging and then it is dividing into two or more parts and it is making a colony. As you can see picture that you can easily understand how the bud is developing. Now look at the picture here. This is a yeast cell. Okay, that is a center part, it is a nucleus, and here you can see it that how the side part is start enlarging. This is known as a bud that is developing a side of the body. Okay, then further that it will be enlarging, that will increase the size, and further it will divide into two or more parts, that is making up in a colony. As a bud is dividing, it means that they are considering, they are developing their cells as well. These are the cells they are growing. Each cell has a nucleus. Nucleus, it is a basic part of the cell and further it will divide as like they are dividing in a colonies and further they will grow up. This is known as bud. What we have known about this? It is a round prominent. As you have seen in a picture how the bud is increasing, it is increasing in a side of the body, they are further dividing. The nucleus, it is a very basic part of the cell. It is also divided. So the bud which is increasing in the side of the body, they are developing in the side of the body, they are further divided the nucleus as well. So as like they are increasing, they are developing into two or more parts as like in a colony. So each cell will be grown. Okay, this is known as budding. Next is that the fragmentation. Fragmentation, what does it mean? Fragmentation, the breaking of the body into two or more parts. Here I am writing that you can easily understand that the breaking of the body into two or more parts. Okay, that is the definition. As you can write it down, the definition of the fragmentation, it means that the breaking of the body into two or more parts. As like here, that again you can see, this is a picture that you can see it. This is considering as a fragmentation. This part is fragment. This is dividing into two or more parts. That is known as fragmentation. Understand? Next is that a spore formation. What is a spore? A spores are means dot-like structure. You have seen a spore, a prominent projection that you have seen. So spore-like projection that is covering with a hard protective coat. Because why it is covering with the hard protective coat? Just because of these spores can be survive in a harsh temperature, and also the leaking of food and water, which are means facing the plant, they can easily cover up by these hard protecting coat. So spores basically that is a breaks up. When it will be breaks up, it is also helping out to grow cells. Okay, that is also helping out to reproduce and grow the cell. Each spores they are reproducing a and growing a cell. This is known as a spore formation. Next we have discussed fragmentation. Next is that the binary fission. Basically what is binary fission? So it is also method of the asexual reproduction. The same thing we are discussing about here. If we talk about the budding, it is also asexual reproduction. If we talk about that binary fission, it is also asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, it means that the plant and an organism which is developing, which is growing by its parent cell. Only just one parent is required for growing the other one. So binary fission, it is also considered as asexual reproduction. It is the most common method of asexual reproduction in bacteria. Okay, this is the asexual reproduction and it is most common in the bacteria. So in binary fission, first the nucleus divided into two nuclei, as like in the process in the budding. Budding we have discussed what it is in, that is a nucleus and a cell, it is dividing into two or more parts. So the same thing is happening in a binary fission. One cell which are present in the bacteria, that is also dividing into two. The nucleus, basically the nucleus, it is quite an important part. As like heart and brain is working in our body, the nucleus, the same thing, the nucleus is working in the cell. So the nucleus basically it will divide it into two. So the same thing it is happening in the binary fission. The bacterial cell will be divided into two or more parts. The further will each the same will divide nucleus as well. Nucleus as like a two daughter cell will be divided like a budding. As you can see here, as you can see this picture, that as you can see here, that will also divide into two daughter cells. Here this is a one. Okay, this is one bacterial cell. Further this is the center part, obviously it is a nucleus. Then it will, when it will be dividing, this nucleus divided into two. The one nucleus will be divided into two, and then further it will as like divide like this. Then further it will be same procedure will going on, and then it will separate it from each other as like become a two daughter cell. This all process known as binary fission, as you can see here. Understand? This is also binary fission. This is also a method of asexual reproduction. Here one thing is dividing by its same species, which means that a one single parent is dividing into other two or more cells. Now next topic is that sexual reproduction. It means that the fusion of male and female gametes of the flower, and it is producing the new one flower and new one plant. This is known as sexual reproduction. So here first we must understand that what will be the male part of the flower and what will be the female part of the flower. It is the stamen here, this is considered as a male part of the flower, and this one is pistil, that is a female part of the flower. So here the first upper one part, that is known as anther, and this one is filament. This is a structure, this is a part known as a male part of flower, and this one is pistil, that is considering as female part. Like this one upper part is known as stigma, that is a style, and that is last one part, a round shape part, it is known as ovary. Okay. So here we are discussing about this anther. It is containing pollen grains. This is containing a pollen grain, a spot pollen like structure. Pollen grain. Okay. They are considering, this is known as pollen grains, and this one pollen grains, when it will be transferred to this stigma, the process which is going on pollination, because these pollen grains are transferring over here. So first we must know that these two parts will be present in a same flower as well. These two parts will be present in a same flower. In single flower, two parts will be present. This is known as bisexual plant. Okay, bisexual, it means that both parts will be present in a same plant. Here I am writing that bisexual, both male part of the flower and the female part will be in a same plant. Both parts will be present. Okay, and if we talk about that, if a flower that will consider only one part, if it is considering only just male part of the flower and a female part of the flower, so that will known as a unisexual. Unisexual, it means that considering only just one part, whether it will be a female part or whether it will be a male part in the flower. Okay, so that will bisexual and unisexual, it means a flower will consider these two parts, then the process will going easily. And if any other plant that will consider only this one part, that is known as unisexual. Maybe the plant will consider this one part and the plant will consider this one part. So this process, it is known as unisexual. And bisexual, it means that these two parts will be present in a one flower or a one flower as well. So next thing is that the anther, it is containing pollen grains. It is also considered as a male gametes that will transfer to the stigma. These pollen grains, when it will be transferred to the stigma, this process known as pollination. Okay, the process when transfer of the pollen grains from anther to the stigma, it is known as pollination. Then it has basically two types, cross pollination and self pollination. Self pollination. Pollination process, you have known about this. These pollen grains that will transfer to the stigma. Maybe that will be present in a one flower, and maybe this thing will be present in a only just one flower. This one part will be present in one flower and maybe this one as well. Okay, so the transfer of these pollen grains from anther to the stigma. This one part, there is a pollen tube also present over here that will easily helping out to pass these pollen grains towards the ovary. That is a pollen tube. That pollen grain easily transfer over here and then the process will going on. So the process, it is known as pollination. It means transfer of the pollen grains from anther to the stigma. It has basically two types, cross pollination. Cross pollination, it means that the pollen grains, it is pollen grain of one flower will be transferred to the other flower. Okay, it is known as cross pollination. And if we talk about the self pollination, the pollen grains of the same flower will be transferred into in its flower. It is not going to the others like a cross pollination. It is known as self pollination. So here I am showing you a diagram. You can easily understand what is a cross pollination and what is a self pollination. So here you can see two types of flower over here. These parts, like we have look at this, like the parts of the stigma and anther, this pistil and stamen are over here. These two parts are present in the one flower. So these pollen grains, if it will be transferred to the other one flower, this process known as cross pollination. Okay, because this one pollen grains are transferring to the other. But if we talk about the self pollination, so this pollen grains, here you can see an anther over here. So the pollen which are present in the anther, they will transfer to its same plant. They are not going over there. So this process, it is known as self pollination. As you can easily understand, What is cross pollination? That is transferring to the other one, and cell, the process will be going in same plant, in same flower. This is self pollination. Understand? So what will be the agents? It means that these pollen grains are transferring to the other flower and other plant. So how they are transferring? What is the reason behind it that the pollen grains are transferring to the other plants and the process is going on? And this process helping out to develop the new one plant, helping out to development of the seeds. So these are the agents we can discuss, like by the help of wind, by the help of air, the pollen can be easily transferred over here towards the stigma. By the help of animals like bees, they are sitting on the flower, and by the help of bees and pollen grains will be transferred over here. And next is that by the help of animals. Animals, they are having the plants. By the help of animals, these pollen grains also transfer to the other plant. So that is a process that we have discussed, pollination, how it is transferring. Here I am writing that agents that how this pollen grain that is transferred to the stigma, how the plants are growing, how the process is going. So by the help of these three things. By air, it means wind. By the help of wind, the pollen grains are transferring. Next is that by the help of water, and by the help of animals. These are the agents you can see over here, air in terms of wind, water and animals. They all are the agents, they are helping out to transfer these pollen grains to the stigma. Because the process will going on in a sexual reproduction, they are required two parts. So definitely how the pollen grain will transfer. When the pollen grain will transfer, then the process will start and other one plant will grown up. That is all about the process of the pollination, here transformation of the pollen grains. So when the pollen grains interns over here, like a pollen tube, by the help of pollen tube, when a pollen grain interns over here, it is helping out to the process of fertilization. It is helping to make a process of fertilization. Then it is also helping out to make a new one seed that is growing to the other plant. It means that the two parts helping out to making and growing up the another one plant. This is known as sexual reproduction. And if we were talking about the sexual reproduction, only the single parent plant, they are developing their new one plant. It means by its vegetative parts of the plant, they are developing the new one. So further, here I am just showing about the picture that by the help of animals, how the pollen grains are transferring to the others. So as like you can see picture over here, by the help of bee, as you can see over here, the bee, it is sitting on the flower and this is the pollen grain. Definitely it will stuck in the leg of the bee, then it will be transferred to the other flower. So the pollen which will stuck in the leg of the bee, that will transfer to the other flower as well. So as like by the help of animals, the pollen grain are transferring to the other. Okay, as you can see diagram that you can easily understand, by the help of animal, this pollen grain are transferring to the other. Okay, so have you got this, the process that we have discussed? What we have discussed today? What is budding? Okay, it means that a small rounded prominent that is developing side of the body and that it is enlarging and it is dividing into a colonies. They are dividing each cell. Fragmentation, as like here I have written over here, the breaking of the body into two or more parts, that is known as a fragmentation. If we talk about that bifurcation, the same thing is happening like with happening in the budding as well. This is also dividing cell into two parts. Like sexual reproduction, these all are the process we have discussed, that how the pollen grains are transferring to the stigma and how the other one plant is growing. Next is that the topic we have discussed like pollination. It has two types. Pollination, simple thing, just you have to memorize. This transformation of the transfer of the pollen grains, that is the process known as pollination. It has two types like cross pollination and self pollination. And how these pollen grains are transferring to the other? By the help of animals, by the help of water, and by the help of wind. These all are the topics today we have discussed. Now moving towards the homework, the question I have given, what is budding? So you will write down the definition, then you will make this one diagram completely. It is showing budding. This one diagram you will make. These four. When you will write down the definition of the budding from here, then you will make this diagram as I have mentioned. This one diagram you will make. You cannot make this one. Don't need to make this one. This diagram you will make it. Okay. Then further for the homework, you will see homework folder. Take care and Allah Hafiz.